Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, SharePoint Essentials, Understanding its Role and Function in Your Organization. My name is Rachel Clendaniel, Marketing Coordinator here at Kite Technology Group. Our presenter today is Adam Atwell. He's our Chief Technology Officer, Microsoft MVP, and partner here at Kite Tech. We're glad you joined us today and are excited to be sharing today's content. So before I hand this over to Adam, here's a little bit more about Kite Technology. We are a managed IT service provider and consulting firm. We serve small and medium-sized businesses across the country. We specialize in serving independent insurance agencies, nonprofits, and other professional organizations, but we work with many different businesses across a variety of industries. We strive to help those organizations we partner with leverage technologies so they can maximize their business performance. Listed here are some of the IT services we offer. If you'd like to learn more about how we can help you with your technology needs, please feel free to reach out after this webinar or in the Q&A and let us know that you're interested. And with that, I'm going to hand this over to Adam Atwell to introduce himself.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Adam Atwell, and I am our resident Microsoft MVP. For those of you who don't know what that means, it's a most valuable professional. Microsoft recognizes folks in the industry that make significant contributions to the community at large or the products, and they go through a nomination process to nominate them. There's about 3,500 globally, and so I'm honored to have that as a designation and mark in my career. I am also, in addition to that, our Chief Technology Officer and a partner here. Been with Kite Tech for over a decade, and I lead the technical strategy for our company, as well as work with other partners like Microsoft, Nerdio, and other technical partners, and help lead those relationships, as well as do things like help share and educate with our clients as well as our employees. So today we said that we were going to come in and talk about the Microsoft platform called SharePoint. So we're going to do an overview of the features. We'll talk about kind of the functionality, how SharePoint can add value to your business, and then how it integrates across other areas of your Microsoft 365 experiences, and then how to get it to your users. And then we're also going to do a live demo of how you can actually build a template and build a landing page. So I'm sure that's what most folks are excited to see. So all that being said, we'll go ahead and move forward to the first step. So what is SharePoint? SharePoint is more than just files. A lot of folks think of SharePoint as a file sharing container space. For those of you that are used to having your old S drive or shared network drives, you probably evolved beyond that at this point, and you're moved forward and you're doing file share collaboration with some sort of tool like SharePoint. A lot of folks come from like Citrix ShareFile or others, Google Docs, those kinds of things. And Microsoft SharePoint has been on the forefront of file sharing and collaboration for a long time. So you can not only share those files, but you can go ahead and share data and business processes. So you can go through something like an approval process. Have you ever gone through a vacation request? You can go and embed that in a SharePoint site as a workflow or process, or maybe something that needs to get purchased, those kinds of things. You can also use it to land communication out to your staff at large, right? Create rich, engaging websites that folks can collaborate and communicate and consume information from. That's part of what we're going to cover today. And then, of course, it has customization, and it can scale, as well as has security and governance around it. These are a couple different ways that you see people using SharePoint. One is to go and reach a broader audience, bring folks in to seeing company news. So emails a lot of times get sent out, but what happens when you bring on a new employee? Would they have gotten that email? Would they have seen it? No, probably not. And so having a SharePoint site will give you the ability to share that news from a historical standpoint. You can also post up things like events or a company calendar, those kinds of things. And then, of course, you can also broadcast live events like meetings and those kinds of things. A lot of people use it also for sharing knowledge. So for training sites or maybe for HR information, ways to deliver video content or a video library. And then you could also use it to engage your employees for onboarding new employees or connecting with leaders. There's a leadership page, meet your leaders, or a way to recognize your employees and share and grow in collaborating and praising each other in the way that you're communicating. So, some of the other kind of core features really is centered around this template experience, and that's really kind of what a lot of what we're going to do today. I'm going to do a little preview here with a few slides, and then we'll jump in and really kind of cover things live as we go through customizing a SharePoint page. But here's a couple examples of just communication sites you could build or SharePoint sites. So one is general corporate comms, so leadership news, events, and engagements. You can see that's that first example. It could just be a plain news site where you want to land and highlight specific articles. Or it could be centered around links and resources and videos and other kinds of things. That's what that crisis management page is. Additionally, you could go and build a training site there for Microsoft 365 or other things, whether it's Epic or AMS 360, Hawksoft, you name it. You could build workflows, videos, how-to documents. You could onboard new employees, right? Or you could highlight things like your benefits package and the details of those out as well. So those are just some examples. We will, these are all templates that are available today in SharePoint. I'm going to show you how to access them here. Let's cover a little bit on how you can access SharePoint across desktop and mobile, because you can get to SharePoint in more than just a website. So this is SharePoint Online in the iOS or Android OS app. So you can see here that you can connect with people, you can see the news, and then you can also find documents, right? In addition to connecting to it that way, you can also get to just your documents from the OneDrive app on the mobile experience. And then these are the other areas where you can see it. So you have your SharePoint site, you have home sites, which are a part of driving specific curated content that you want to surface out. You can also see that same information embedded inside of Teams. That's what that third bullet is. And then lastly, over in what used to be called the Yammer web part is now called the Viva Engage web part. And so that's a kind of a Facebook for work is what I call it. So then let's kind of see, well, how do these things work together, right? We're hearing a lot of words that these things talk together, but how exactly do they work together? Well, the fact of the matter is that OneDrive is really just a personalized version of a SharePoint site. And so it's files for you and only you. OneDrive doesn't have a component of a SharePoint site itself where you could go and build a landing page, but it does allow you to share files and interact with those files. Teams, of course, is the backbone to the communication and collaboration that we do nowadays, a significant amount of what we're doing. And you can kind of see, well, here's, SharePoint site. When you build a team site, you get a corresponding SharePoint page to go along with it. And so I'm sure you're familiar with each of these applications because you're using them today. And in the same way, you can interact with the files that go across them. You can create new sites. You can integrate with Office apps, collaborate on documents. And then all these things kind of center together, right? So Teams and SharePoint allow you to connect in with the OneDrive files where you can access all of your stuff. And then you also use the OneDrive Sync client to access files that you create, share, and work with both on Teams and SharePoint. And so these experiences are all very much tied together in how they work. Best practices for, kind of leveraging SharePoint to engage your users. There's a couple of these, and I'm going to go over them really more live in the demo here as we open up the SharePoint canvas. But these are things you want to make sure your content's rich and engaging and that it's up to date, right? There's nothing worse than stale content. I'll say that. And so I'm going to flip over now to the browser, and we can see, I think we have what is the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. Hopefully, somebody can kind of see that here. And on the back side of it, you can see we have a link to the SharePoint Admin Center. And so I'll go over to the SharePoint Admin Center. Now, by default, you all can see here, this just kind of brings you in and it shows you what you have going on with SharePoint. Well, I really don't have very many pages here. So I'm going to go over here and you can see under active sites, by default, you're going to get a main communication site, and I'll open that up in a new tab. So by default, out of the box, you're going to get this communication site template, right? So let me talk about the layout here of this main site. So this main site is a communication site template. So that means that you can see on the top, you have the navigation here, home, documents, pages, site contents. And then these are the different content areas. So you can see here, there's a content area at the top. There's a news area. There's an events area. There's documents and so on. And so these are just a couple of different, really different pods, if you will. But they're SharePoint web parts is really what they're called. And so, here, this is just one example of a SharePoint site. So in addition to what you can see here at the top on the links, you can come over here and let's say that we wanted to add another link to this page. So let's say that we wanted to do the Kite Tech homepage. We could just type that in right there and we could say KTG home. Great. And then we could say open in a new tab. And so we see that and we hit save. Now, after a moment, you can see there's a link and it's added right here to the top. Click that and boom, what do you know? It brings us straight into Kite Technology Group's home. Great. So that's part of how you can go ahead and add a link. I'm going to zoom in a little bit for everyone. In addition to that, you can click and drag things to reorder them, right? And so you see me reordering things here. In addition to reordering them, you can drag things over top of things to make them sublinks. And so if I hit save here, now you can see I have this KTG documents and it has a site contents and it has a pages. And so these are just, different ways that you can kind of bump this, move it about. You can also see promote sublink is going to bring this right back up. Promote sublink, and now everything will be right back at the main level. So I'll hit save again. And now you can see we don't have any drop downs. So that's a little bit on the navigation. Now, this main landing page is where your site is really going to be published, the very initial site. And like I said, it is a style communication site. I'm going to go back here to the active site. Now, you guys can see that in addition to the communication site, which is the main site, we also have this thing called a team site. Well, what's that? That's a different style template. Now you can see there's a difference here in this style in that on the left-hand side, you can see we have all the navigation over here for the different pieces of the site. Right now, I'm not really too sure yet how we're going to use this. We're going to take a look at kind of a few different template options, but a lot of times folks really like the top-driven navigation. And so right now, again, this is a team site, and then this is a communication site template, but those are the main differences. So if you go in back to SharePoint Admin Center, and if you don't have keys for this, you're going to want to ask your admin team, right, for some help with it. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to hit create. And from here, you can see we just covered, there's a team site, there's communication site, and these are the two different ones. Now, these are really, kind of built in a few different ways. The team site is typically a part of a Microsoft 365 group. So a lot of team sites we find to be things like, for instance, departmental-based sites, right? And they're automatically given access to the site, to the content on the site by way of their team's membership. So that's great. Communication sites are things that are more general information to share with larger audience. So not as many authors, but we have a lot more specific purposes, and then they're meant to engage larger audiences. If you look down a little bit more and say choose other template, you can see there also are a couple of other styles. Now, I'm going to caution you that a lot of these are really built for the more versed SharePoint users. One of which is a document. It's a classic site. You notice that. The enterprise wiki site is also a classic site. And so and then the publishing portal is as well. So they've really kind of moved away from a lot of those older templates. And so you want to kind of probably stay away from those things. But out the gate, we're going to create a new communication site. And you can see here, there are different templates. Now, we have several different ones here. One is the standard communication site. That's the one that we were already covering. You have one called a Brand Central, which is kind of where you would go and show some brand guidelines. Crisis management was one we had just talked about in the PowerPoint deck. And scroll down a little bit more, we have some other things: learning, HR, events, the organization's main page, volunteer center, new employee onboarding. So I'm going to go ahead and click new employee onboarding. Okay. And you can see here, it says, well, hey, there's several different things that are already included: a home page, 5 additional subpages, a page template, a list, and then you can enhance it with engaging video. Okay, that's great. I feel like this is kind of what we were looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and call this new employee onboarding. And then the site owner, I'm going to make myself. And I'll hit next. And then you'll note it does ask you about the time zone. And so we're in Eastern over here where we're at in Maryland. And so I'll click in. And in a moment, it's going to go ahead and load that page up for us. Now, while that is coming, it really doesn't take long at all, but I am going to go back here for a moment, and I'm going to go to, I want to go to a site that I had already created ahead of this meeting. And this is the brand guidelines site. And so you guys can see here, this is a place, its specific job is to give the opportunity for you to, share specific pictures. You could download the guidelines on how you represent your branding. You could download some templates, right? And then, it tells you, oh, okay, well, you want to use, here are our logos. Here are icons, here's merchandising, here's a brand checklist. And so these are just different pieces that you can download. I think there's actually a problem with this template, which is funny. I apologize for that. But in here, it talks about the brand strategy, right? And kind of, you can see, okay, well, what are these best practices? Awesome. And those are just, different aspects of the brand central, right? Then specifically advertising, co-branding, right? Events. And so this is a nice, very well written page that helps you kind of understand it's a good template. And you can come in here and customize any of these pages. So if we go back to the home page real quick and we say, okay, explore images. Well, let's say I want to edit this whole area here. I'm going to hit edit. Now you can see here, it says our brand, our promise. Wonderful. Okay, what do I want to do? Well, this particular area, I'm going to say Adam Atwell. Great. And then up here, this is text right now, but let's say that maybe I want to add an image. And I'll go over to stock images and I'm going to look for something like, sure, this. I'll insert that. And now you can see I've changed the background image that fast. In addition to that, you can kind of, reset the focal point. So if I didn't like kind of how that image was rotating, I could do that. And then, it does give you some different options of how you can display that image in the background. So I can, make it plain. I could do the image and title, like we talked about. I could do a little bit of an overlap. And so I think the image and title, I think that's a good look. So that's the header, kind of the banner aspect. And you can make those adjustments, whatever makes sense to you. Come down here, and then these are just different content areas, right? And so this is a button. If I click on the button, I can see, okay, great. Well, what does it do? It goes and it's going to take me to a link, right, for a main page. That's wonderful. I can come down here, and I could add additional links. Right now, this is a grid of links. I could make it compact, right? Or I could make it so it's a film strip like it was, and then, or a list. It's just several different kinds of ways that you can reorganize kind of what you see on the page there. I'm going to go ahead and hit save, republish. And then I'll say republish. Now notice when I hit republish, it does say, hey, do you want to schedule a launch? We're just going to do this right away here. And so that fast, I was able to make a few changes, and that's our homepage. Now I'm going to go back over here, close that guy. And there's the new employee onboarding site. So we'll click onto that site. And now you can see here, this is the new employee onboarding site, right? And so at the gate, we can see that this, if you edit it, you can see, okay, great. This is an image. This is a text box. Down here, they're using some additional links, right? Which is great. Okay, here's some quick links. I wonder where they're going. Let's kind of see here. Okay, this edit workplace. Okay, good. It's something called workplace setup. And where does it go? It goes to this specific page. Okay, great. Awesome. And so those are, you can see this template is already here for you. I'm going to say discard changes at the top. Okay, that's fine. And then at the very top now, you can kind of see some of these other things that came along in the sample. And so this is showing you, oh, okay, well, you could hear your different people. You can, click on your people and see their picture. That's great. You could also add some text blurbs here if you wanted. So that's a little bit on the new employee onboarding side. On the help and support side, okay, great. I have questions about the benefits team, or I have questions about, my payroll, time off. These are all things that are available. And then you can come in here and you can actually do a search. And actually, it hasn't indexed yet. I apologize. It's too new. And that's why. But those are a couple of quick different things you can do. Let's kind of talk about reorganizing the main page. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to go back to my main site. And we're going to actually take this template and completely throw it away. And so if you come in here, you can see there's all these web parts. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to delete that one. I'm going to delete that one. And now we have basically a blank page. So let me go ahead and save that. Now you can see this is our homepage. Well, there's nothing here. That's actually intentional, right? And so we're actually going to edit this page and we're going to start to add some web parts. Okay, so the first question it asks you when you add is it says, hey, do you want a single column section? Do you want 2 columns? Do you want 3 columns? Do you want it to be full width? Right? And so I'm going to make it a full width column. I'm going to make it a banner. And then this is the title. And so I'm going to call it IT with an MVP intranet. And that's great. And then let's customize this a little bit. Okay, you can do the author, which is not really that great of a look. Let's go for an image and a title. And I'm going to edit the image. Now, if you didn't have an image, you could upload one from your local, but I'm actually going to go back to the stock images because they have some cool stuff there. Pick one and sure, this looks cool. And so great, that's our intranet. Now, like I had said before, you can kind of set that focal point in the image. So if you just wanted the sky, that's great. You could also come down a little bit. So I'm going to get that skyline a little bit with the islands. And that's probably actually maybe a little lower. Yeah, sure. Great. Okay, so there's that. And then that's it. Okay, so our first actual section is good. Let's go ahead now and let's add another section. Now, this next section, do I want it to be 1, 2, or 3 columns? Well, I actually think I want this one to be 3 columns. Actually, I think I want it to be 2 columns. I misspoke. But I want it to be 1/3 right. And so that means that I'm going to have, a couple of different sections. You can see here, there's 1/3 right, 1/3 left. I want this to be 1/3 right. And so I'll go ahead and say, hey, line this, center it. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of color differentiation here so you guys can see actually, what is on the page a little bit. This section was an accident, so I'm going to delete it. But now in here, let's add a few things. So inside here, I'm just clicking and you can see now I have this whole list of different things that I can do. And so the first thing I want to do is I want to add a countdown. I'm scrolling through the list. I don't really see it. Oh, there it is. There's a countdown timer. Okay, wonderful. What am I going to do? I'm going to do this as it's a Friday, the 27th at 11. And then I want to do this as days, hours, and minutes. I'm going to, I could say call to action, sign up now, right? And then send people out to a specific site. And then we'll add a background image. We'll go to our stock images again, click this random picture. Great. Make it a little bit more opaque. Wonderful. And then it doesn't actually have a title, but we're going to put one here and we're going to call this sign up for prescription discounts. Great. And so that is our countdown timer, right? And you can see here, we could move this web part. I can move it over here. If I wanted to, I'm going to actually put it back over here because I'm going to add a few more things. And that's kind of where it starts, right? Now over here, let's say in this section, I want to add another web part inside here because we have all this space to work with. Now in here, I'm going to want to add a YouTube video, right? I'll say add a video. Now I don't actually have a video on the ready, so that actually won't work, but let me add another one. I'll search for video. And we could go to Microsoft Stream. Now, Microsoft Stream is a place where as you record your videos on your website, right, you can go and record videos and then they can show up here in a playlist. So how many of you show the same videos over and over and over again? They would float right here and show it live for folks, right? And so that's another kind of web part that you could do. We'll go ahead and get rid of that web part and let me see if I can actually, I don't know why this ad, it's looking for this YouTube embedded. So I'm actually going to go over here, go to YouTube, Kite Tech Group, and here's our YouTube. That's great. I'm going to grab this. Not going to play it for you guys, but if you scroll down a little bit more, there's a share button and then there's embed code. And so I'm going to grab this embed code and then I'm going to come back over here and I'll paste the embed code. And now I've gone ahead and I've put in a YouTube video right here for you guys. And so that's right there. We'll go ahead now and we'll go down and we'll add the next web part. So what else do we see in here commonly in events lists, right? And so if you come down here a little bit more, there's events. And so you can see here, there aren't any events going on yet for me, but here's the upcoming events that you would see if you had events, and you can customize this. You can show, 5 events at a time. You could do the compact view, or you could do the film strip view, right? A lot of times we see people take this kind of thing and, kind of put it over here on the side this way. So let's go ahead and let's look at adding a few more pieces of content. So in addition to that, we can add some quick links. Excuse me, sorry about that. And so I'll say quick links, I'll say from a link, and we're going to say google.com. We'll make it great. And then we'll say add another link. And I'm going to say, instead of Google, I'll say apple.com. That's great. I'll also go ahead and add our homepage. Okay, great. Okay, so there's 3 different links that we added. Now they're all web links, right? Now let's say that I want to actually do a custom image, right, from the library. Excuse me, I am terribly sorry. In here, you can actually choose a custom image from the logo or from the library, right? And so if we go back in the library and we do a change, this time let's do a search. Is there any apples in here? No. Is there any fruit? No. How about a cloud? Sure, lots of different cloud options. So we'll click that. Okay, great. So we've customized a few links. Now these links, they can be shown a few different ways. You can show them as a list of tiles, which kind of has a nice little look to it. You do want to make sure you make this choice of, do I want to open this in a new tab? Typically, almost everyone wants things to open in a new tab. So I'd encourage you to turn that on. But you can see I've kind of customized these links out a little bit. You could also add something that is a page, right? And so we have a few different pages that you can see here, right? So we'll say the site events page. We can insert that. And this right now doesn't look that great. So I'll give it, we'll call it calendar of events, which is great. Now for this one, I might not want to open that in a new page. I might want to actually, kind of use what's there. Now let's see if we can find a calendar. Bet we can. There we go. And so that's a little bit of how we customize it. Now you can continue on. You can see, like I said, we have the, a full width here. These are sections that are, kind of aligned with the center. You can align them at the top or the bottom. You can see these different alignment things actually happen a little bit better now that we have content in here, right? We click back up in the section area here. We can see the same kinds of things. Go back up to the section level. So that's a little bit on how you customize the site, right? Now, some of you are probably thinking, okay, well, now I know how to put some content in here. What other kinds of things are here, right? Well, there's this whole vertical section. This vertical section is something that you put all the way on the far side. Now you can see I did try to actually use, this whole 2 section, but maybe it really doesn't work that great. So maybe what if I just kind of took this countdown timer, I kind of like it better as a section. I'll move it over there. I'll move this over there. I kind of like that layout better, the way it has that vertical section organized, right? And then I'll come in here and what was a 1/3 right, I'll just make it a single column. And so now you can see kind of how those scale a little bit differently, right? And then this particular one, we were showing it as tiles. We could change it back out to buttons. Those really don't look that great. Let's see, film strip, not bad. You can get a little bit of a preview on that one, but I kind of like those tiles. So I'll publish this site. Give it a second. And we'll say republish. And now we actually have a web page that we can go to, and you can see people could come in here and they could start to consume this content. So there are some other things you can customize, right? And so if you click up here in the upper right hand corner, we did go and if you go to site, see how it says apply a site template, right? This is, what we did. This is how we originally got this communication site built, right? And so we went and we deployed a communication site, and then we added a theme on top of it. So there's already several themes. You can see there's actually a similar style here to what we already put in there, and you can add several different things. That's great. In addition to that, you can do a little bit of coloring, right? And so right now we have this real black and white kind of situation. We could go and we could, kind of customize it. You can see these buttons are going blue a little bit on me. Make it purple for Let's Go Ravens. Here we go. And so these are just, different themes. That onboarding site was kind of orange. I'm going to go with blue because I like blue. That's maybe kind of hard to see. So let me actually, rather than dark blue, I'll do light blue. I think I like the dark blue. We're going to go that direction. And so as you see that, that's the theme. And then in addition to that, you can come in here and you can see we can have different kinds of headers, right? So right now it has a compact header, or I want it to be a minimal header. So you saw how all that got reduced. Or I want a full standard header or an extended header, even larger, right? And then you also have some different font options here. Great. You can do the site logo. So I'm going to change that logo out, and I'm going to actually come on over here to our logos, and I'll just choose this one. Great. Now that's up there. Now with that logo, I don't know. I don't really like the way that logo is displayed. So maybe I'm going to choose this extended view, right? And that's maybe a better kind of thing to do. So then, I've changed the site thumbnail logo, which is great. I'll do the same here. And that's going to upload that. And then it does ask me, well, where do you want the logo? You want it left justified, centered, right justified? And we're going to go with right justification here. So that's how you can go and kind of build out a site and see what it looks like. Give me just a moment. I'm going to show you an example of a SharePoint site that we've put together. I'll bring it over here. This is what we call our Kite Tech Wiki. And you can see here at the top under knowledge base, we've built all these how-to articles that, we help kind of support our clients with, right? And so like, let's say, okay, well, what questions do we have about this thing called an iDRAC? Well, if you click into it, you can see this is an online knowledge base about the iDRAC, right? Okay, great. If we go back a page, we can see there's several different articles. So these are knowledge-based articles. We also have client-facing documentation, right, that we share out with folks. We have internal training resources. We also have standard operating procedures. What if you want to know how we do invoicing for our agency consulting team? These are all pages that we've turned into SharePoint sites and put here to share. And then in addition to that, you can search this. So earlier you saw me do iDRAC. And if I do a little search and say show more results, you can see there's a knowledge base article on the wiki for this thing called an iDRAC that Adam keeps talking about. And it goes through the text of how to do it. You can see we have some embedded pictures here, which is great. And then at the very top of this page, you can see we also have some top-driven navigation. So in addition to the Kite Tech Wiki page here, we have at the very, very top all these different additional links that we've added along the way. So that's kind of the meat and potatoes of it. I'm gonna go back and I'll show you guys a couple of other things real quick. If you click at the very top on the gears here, you can also see site usage. If you go over to site usage, you can actually see the metrics of what people are doing here on the page. So for the last 7 days, every user that's came here has spent 8 minutes. We've had 1,300 visits since last week. Now, if you think about that, we have 55 employees. That must mean we use this site. Think about it. Within a week, they've been here this many times. And then you scroll down a little bit more and you can see kind of what the top pages people are using and viewing, kind of where they're, getting to it and how. And then it says Wednesday, 10 a.m. has been the most active time over the last few weeks. So that's a little bit on kind of SharePoint and all the different ways that you do it. Some best practices, we kind of covered that a little bit. I did want to talk a little bit about kind of an adoption plan here. And so one of the things to keep in mind is, any project you have, we have a similar style of an adoption plan we recommend. You help identify stakeholders to lead the comms on it. You develop a communication plan and a training plan for your team on site, your people. And then you want to figure out, well, hey, how do I build this thing out, right? In addition to what do we want to do with the page, how can we socialize the change? How can we let people know what's going on? And so that's really what it's about. You launch it, and then you have follow-up comms and follow-up events. So this is really a 6-step plan, right? You start with the vision, you get the buy-in, expect changes to come along the way, train the users, evaluate the vision, and go ahead and consult with an expert along the way as you need help. So here's a couple other ways how we can help, right? These are different things that we've seen people struggle with. One is kind of upgrading a legacy SharePoint site, right? Upgrading it and overhauling it. Some folks don't know how to take SharePoint from on-prem and bringing it over to the cloud. So we've helped with that. Sometimes people need help talking through a plan of what and how they're supposed to, kind of use this thing, right? Well, what am I supposed to do with the SharePoint site? How am I supposed to use it? Or how do I interact with it? What matters to people, right? I see I have some questions and I'm coming around to those here in just a minute. And then how do I integrate it into the daily workflow? How do I get to it, right? On a daily basis. I'm going to launch Teams up here for a second. And I'm going to bring over this page for you guys. Give me just a moment. We talked about kind of how you make this stuff available to people. And, one of the easiest ways to do that is to make it front and center for people, make it easy for your team to get to what they need, right? And so for SharePoint itself, that same wiki page that I just shared with you all, you can see I have it available to me inside of Teams. I apologize, it's loading slowly. But you can see up here at the very top, you can actually customize this page to show all the things that you want to right here on the landing page. So if I wanted to embed that SharePoint site right here, I could do that, which is great. These are other ways that we help folks, in terms of different consulting services we do, email migration, Intune cleanup or deployment, Microsoft 365 management, file migrations, Teams adoption, data and governance and compliance. And then I'll put this up here for you all while I answer the questions that we have on the screen. So I have 5 questions. First one, If I have something called a root site, how does that relate to Teams and communication sites? Great question, Margaret. Thanks for asking. I'll show what the root site is. And so let me close out of our site and I'll bring back over the demo site. So this here, Margaret, is the root site. The root site is a template style of a communication site. And so really, if you go back to the SharePoint Admin Center and you look here, you can see the one without the dots is the actual root site. And so that's really where the root site is. It is all modern root sites are communication sites, and you can't change that template. You can, though, change what your root site is. And so let's say that I wanted to take this and replace this root site with something else. You can see here, if I click on this and say replace site, that, I can come in here and I can say, hey, go to instead the /sites/new employee onboarding. And, if I went ahead and improved that, then this site, IT with an MVP.sharepoint.com, would actually, instead of it being the communication site that we built, then we would, go ahead and see the root site that we just made. In addition to that, we didn't really go over permissions, but, the membership for this particular site is, everyone's a member here of this site. If you go back to general, you can see we can actually edit the name here. And so we can call this IT with an MVP home. And then we hit save. And in a second, it'll update that name. In addition to that, you can adjust different things like, hey, do I want to allow external file sharing? No, yes, etc. So you can make those changes there. You come back over here and we do a refresh of this. You can see there, it's gone ahead. And then here, now this is looking a little redundant, right? And so I'll just call this, instead of it being that, I'm going to just call it, say, welcome. And then I'll republish. There you go. Okay, so second question. Second question, is M365 required to use SharePoint? Technically, no, but it's recommended, right? So if we go out to Microsoft's site here, so these are the different business plans, right? And you look across these and you can see that basically almost all of them include SharePoint, right? And so you can see these all really, all of these but basic and business apps have SharePoint included. And so you can see the SharePoint icon there. So business standard and business premium have them. You could also do, Jeff, a SharePoint standalone server. I just wouldn't recommend it. It's a lot to manage for sure. Could we use a communication site for client communication? For instance, supplement constant contact email blast. Could we use a comm site link on our website? So a lot of people don't use typically SharePoint sites as collaborative spaces for external folks, because they really go and there's a lot of security and other things, Richard, that come with that. So not recommended. So yeah, not recommended for sharing with customers. There is something called Viva Engage Community, and that's something, it's a similar kind of website experience, but it is custom tailored and built for actually external collaboration. So that's something to consider there. Is content within each knowledge base and training document fully searchable, not just the title? Good question. I think it is all indexable, but let me go here into our wiki home again, and I'll go into maybe this knowledge base. Okay, so maybe I'll look for global VPN clients. And if I do a search, nothing immediately comes up. But if I go here, now you can see, they actually do show me the search text there. So that's a win. That's great. Does that help answer the question? Yes, awesome. You're welcome, Lindsay. So yes, it is embedded and it is shareable. Glad I could help. Is there a way to only allow certain emails and users to view elements on a company-wide SharePoint site? For example, accounting, IT sections being exclusive to the associated users? Yes. And so if you look, actually, our site has a really good example here. You can see here we have this thing called the soup, the wiki, and then we have these other different departmental based sites. These departmental based sites, Robert, are not for everyone. They're for only for people who have permission. And so if I were to click on this and not be a part of this group, it wouldn't load for me. Great. Thank you, Robert. Michael asked the question, thoughts on migrating on-prem? You're welcome. Thoughts on migrating on-prem file server into SharePoint? Yeah, we do this every day. One of the services we put on the screen here was file share, file migrations, OneDrive and SharePoint. You know, we help do that all day long. And Michael, I can tell you, if you haven't scanned this QR code, scan it. Talk to Tom. We do this every day. We're helping folks with this. There's absolutely a short list of reasons why you would want to keep an on-prem server anymore. So I would recommend migrating all of your files to SharePoint. You can secure it with MFA. You can go ahead and have those files available without a bunch of other people in there. All kinds of good stuff. So it's great. Richard asked, can you use SharePoint to share large files with clients? Yes, you can. You definitely can. I'll kind of pivot over this IT within MVP home. If I take a, yes, the data embedded Power BI dashboards, you can do certain pieces of the data refresh specifics. But yeah, you can get dashboards as well from Power BI in here. They are a custom web part. So you can see here though, Power BI, right? And if I click in, see how it says add a report. So if I add a report, I have the link, and then I don't have any Power BI reports on demand, but yes, you can include that right there. So that's great. Can you focus search on a single document? For example, phone number search from an Excel list. Oh yeah, totally. So if you actually go back in, let me see if I can find a document real fast. This here is just a sample list. And so you can see here, if I did like a 443, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 4. If I do a search here for 443, it doesn't do it there. But if you do a Control F, it's just like a regular find function. That's how you would do it in Excel, and that's how you find it. The wiki gets saved in SharePoint itself, not in OneDrive. Marianne asked, can you go back to the cost for SharePoint? Yeah, sure. So the SharePoint isn't available as a standalone package unless you do SharePoint Server, Brian. But these are the different Microsoft plans that you see here. Now, the two center plans here, if you pay annually, Business Premium and Business Standard, and Business Basic, all three of these plans actually include SharePoint. You can see. Rachel, what did I miss?
I don't think you missed anything.
Okay.
So yeah, just to wrap up here, thank you, Adam, for the great presentation, and thank you everyone who joined us today. We hope that this webinar has been valuable to you. If you would like to learn more about Kite Tech's IT and consulting services, please feel free to reach out using any of the ways listed on the screen here, including scanning that QR code. We would be happy to meet with you and learn more about your organization's technology or consulting needs. As we mentioned earlier, please take a moment to share your thoughts with us on the post-webinar survey. And thank you again for attending this presentation. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us. I hope it added something to your day of value and was worth your time. Be well.